We're getting answers on how an influx of migrants in Massachusetts is impacting the Bay State. Thanks everyone for joining us on this Monday, and welcome to Western Mass News at 6. I'm Chris Pisano. The impact from migrants comes as the border control policy, Title 42, has officially expired. Western Mass News reporter Kristen Burnell joins us live with that story. Kristen.
Chris, the Salvation Army tells me they are seeing an influx in migrants in need of emergency services at their shelters across Massachusetts. New immigration rules took effect last week as a pandemic-era policy, Title 42, came to an end. Under the policy, the United States was allowed to expel migrants due to COVID-19, and now local community groups are seeing more migrants travel to Massachusetts.
The Salvation Army has been providing services to migrants and refugees and immigrants for years, but we are seeing an influx. Some of our local core community centers are seeing an influx of folks coming to them locally.
Deputy Director of Emergency Disaster Services, Emily Mew, tells Western Mass News a majority of the migrants are coming from Haiti and other Spanish countries, with all of them in need of services.
Currently, food is a big issue, baby products, hygiene supplies, feminine hygiene products. We're seeing, anecdotally heard stories of mothers coming into Massachusetts who, before leaving their countries of origin weren't pregnant. And so, they're arriving here with infants or giving birth here and have, no resources.
She says they are partnering with organizations across the state to make sure migrants receive the aid they need. But another issue they are facing is housing.
There's the statewide housing program for homeless. And they're seeing a high percentage of migrants and refugees coming through their doors and needing to place them.
Governor Maura Healey's budget proposal for the 2024 fiscal year budget includes $324 million for the shelter system, as the state is required to provide shelter for homeless families. On the federal level, Congressman Richard Neal tells us he believes there will be a federal assistance package brought up in Congress in the near future, which would provide additional funding for cities and towns that are seeing an influx of migrants.
We need both a humanitarian solution, largely with an immigration reform bill that both sides can agree to, and I think that understanding that the problem that is occurring at the southwest border, it requires a national response, meaning resources brought to bear on behalf of those cities across the country who have to implement expenditure.
Now, Mew adds the Salvation Army does receive grant money from the state, but they're always in need of more funding assistance. Reporting live in Springfield, Kristen Burnell, Western Mass News.